Hey everybody, just wanted to go over my new plane with you. Nothing else, so I could record how it looked before the any crashes. So, tentatively calling this the Invee for the inverted V tail. Just wanted to go over the controls real quick. I've got my my radio all programmed up. I'm actually using all 6 channels on this little 6-channel receiver. So got basically one channel for this I don't know, right rudder vator, one channel for the left rudder vator, one channel for the right aileron, one channel for the left aileron, another channel for the throttle, obviously. And then I've got a final channel set up for actually dropping a parachute. I'll demonstrate that here in a minute. So anyways, here is how the rudder vators work. So if I go up elevator, they go up. If I go down elevator, they go down. Left rudder, that left rudder vator goes to the left, and this one also goes to the left, so it should thrust hopefully the rear of the tail off to the right, and opposite for right rudder. Got left and right ailerons. It's pretty standard. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go into the high rate mode for the ailerons. Not a whole lot of additional throw. You can see that's pretty much the change there. I've also got my knob set up to vary the pitch there, because I'm not real sure how much twist I'm going to need on this wing. So I can probably take all the twist out, and then I'll have a little bit more aileron throw. Same goes for the elevator. That's low rate, and this is high rate. I don't have any pitch or any expo set up for the rudder. I'm not sure if I'm going to need it or not. So I like to think that's pretty cool. Anyway, about that parachute drop system. So basically I've got a servo set up here, real simple setup, with my gear switch essentially set to actuate that. And if I've got a parachuter on here, or some other item I want to drop, it should pop right off. Tested it out once with the Delta, and it seemed to work really well. So there's the actuation on that. I'll go ahead and grab the parachuter. I loop the rubber band around the nothing too meticulous. But, anyway, there it is. And actuate, and it pops right down. Pretty simple. So, a little bit more about the airframe here. Got essentially a 30-inch Armin wing, just 30 inches being the total allowable by the foam board. I used the 7-inch root cord version with the 2-inch ailerons. My inverted V tail, the static portion is 2 inches, and the rudder vators themselves are 2 inches. This is about 6.5, almost 7 inches in length, and I've got it set at a 110 degree angle here. I'm using a Supo motor, Bell. It's basically a 1440 kV, just a little motor on a 3-cell, just a little 1000 milliamp hour battery, and may wind up going with a bigger battery. It seems to balance a little bit behind the ideal 1/3 into the wing, so I may have to put a little more weight out here on the nose, and maybe the next nose will be a camera nose. So the landing gear, I just used the standard flight test design landing gear back here on the back, and I just rigged up my own little nose wheel using the same piano wire, essentially the same piano wire as the regular landing gear. I just kind of bent it up until it looked right, more or less. Used a little bit of hot glue to keep the wheel in place. Hopefully this bend here will give me a little bit of a spring action if I hit the wheel too hard coming down. And then I just essentially folded up a diamond pattern and tucked the loose end back in so that it's got some tension on it. And the main way it's held down is with this Velcro. This stuff is just incredibly sticky. And then I also secured it with this rubber band, which probably isn't doing anything, but it looks good. The skewer here actually holds the flight test design power pod. Well, it holds the nose piece to the power pod. Not that it's really necessary, it's on there pretty good. As you can see, it's just the rear end of the power pod, and got just the motor configured for pusher, and just turn the prop around. It's just an 8x4 prop, just what I happen to have laying around, and obviously I can't go any wider than an 8-inch, so hopefully that's enough. Carbon fiber arrow shafts, just cut to 18 inches for this boom configuration. Just hot glued the inverted V tail on and then taped over it. Hey everybody, just wanted to go over a few updates with the Invee. Since last time I've made a few changes, most notably being the change out of the battery from a 3-cell 1000 milliamp hour. So we can get this in the frame, to a Nanotech 2200 milliamp hour. Considerably heavier. Primary reason for that is just to kind of offset the weight back here in the back and get the CG further forward. First flight wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't completely disastrous. So what I've done to enable that is I've moved the receiver and everything back a little bit, give me room up here in the front, and made a little adapter, and just situate everything like that, and just like that. There we go. And I also added some additional padding to the cockpit area, the nose of this protector. Can't really add a skewer to it now, but it seems to fit pretty tight, pretty snug. One of the other changes that I made is I've gone to a slightly smaller propeller. This is, I believe, a 7x5, maybe a 7x6. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's 0750 master air screw. I was using a APC 8x4 prop, and it bit into the ground upon taxi. One of the other things I've done to alleviate that is I actually had a problem with the landing gear. This landing gear is just a real simple gear setup that was a design element of the flight test swappables, and it's a great set of gear for really lightweight planes, but this one being a little bit more than a pound and a half or so, it's just too heavy for this thing, and whenever it rolls out it tends to open up, and that's not too good when the clearance was pretty small from the propeller and the ground to begin with. So, did away with the landing gear. Now, it's just going to be a belly lander. Hopefully I don't regret that decision. The other thing I did, so I went ahead and recessed these servos here. The aileron servos, they kept coming loose. And I also shortened the rudder, the tail section. It's now only about, let's see, 5.5 inches tall, and also of course shortened the control surfaces. And I went from these little plastic control horns to some homemade control horns. These are just cut out of an old Staples card that I had, and I just bent it over, and on this one I actually made a little retaining clip. But anyway, this seems to be a much better control horn than what I was using. It hasn't popped off yet. I wanted to go over some of the other features that I've programmed up with the transmitter. The most interesting, I think, is the flaperons. So, let's see here, is that in frame? Yep. So I got my standard elevator set up, standard aileron set up, standard rudder set up. Went over that all last time. One of the things that I wanted to show that I've done is, in addition to ailerons, I've got a flap option. So it just puts the flaps down at about 15 degrees, and I still have, or puts the ailerons down at about 15 degrees. I still have aileron control, especially if I go into high rate. Anyways, I've also got a feature where I've mixed the elevator into the ailerons, and this should give me some really tight rolls, especially if I crank up the throw here. Anyway, all that's yet to be played with. Turned out I didn't actually need any of the twist that I programmed up with my knob. looked as though my default setting was pretty good. So there's the latest and greatest improvements on the Invee. So hopefully we'll get to fly it some more. It's been very windy here lately. I've only been able to fly it just briefly in the mornings. Sometimes later in the afternoon, but not usually. Today I flew it and went ahead and posted that video. It went pretty well. The main thing that I learned is that the trim adjustment on the radio, I've got a trim button set up where I can press a button and whatever control surfaces I have deflected, that becomes the new 0. So, like for example, there is, I just changed from no trim to considerable amount of down elevator trim, and I can change that back, but it's kind of touchy, and it's much harder to get right than just using the standard trim switches, and that's actually how I wound up introducing my plane to the fence. So, note to self, don't do that again. Hopefully get some more flight time in, and hopefully I don't regret going away from the landing gear. They did kind of protect the bottom of the plane a little bit, but I don't know, maybe that's not all that necessary. There it is, the Invee.